Hi, my name is Pat Collins. I'm the Riley County Emergency Preparedness Coordinator. We've just experienced a disaster that we really haven't felt since 1951. I want to say that we couldn't have got through the whole disaster without the help of not only the thousands of emergency service workers and volunteers, but the support from everybody.
Of major concern to the Corps of Engineers was the lake level at Tuttle Creek Reservoir fed by the Blue River drainage area.
For this report on the storm.
And heavy rain that we have been reported on. Moving to the east, northeast, very slowly. Again, if you are in the path of this storm, we are to the west side of Manhattan. We're out on Scenic Drive. We're looking across the hills directly at it. We have it spied, and we are watching it. This is a big cloud, and again, we have two of them.
Yes, this is Pat Collins, Emergency Operations Center. We do have reports that spotters are watching a tornado entering Manhattan. They should enter around the Kimball and Farm Bureau building. Should enter in that area. Those people in that area should take cover at this time.
Wow. I can't even see.
A major storm hit the Manhattan area on June 30th. Several tornadoes were spotted just west of town, and torrential rains deluged the area, causing severe local flooding. The storm turned streets into rivers. Strong winds did major damage to trees in the city. Serious damage was done by tornadoes, and some homes and farms in the Keats area were severely damaged. The Stan Shirley farm received major damage just west of Keats. Many 4th of July celebrations were dampened by heavy rainfall. And on July 5th, Tuttle Creek Reservoir reached a new record level.
The thing we need to emphasize with the current water situation in Manhattan, Riley County, Geary County, Pottawatomie County, is that we are not at a crisis. The best information available from the Corps of Engineers to the city staff indicates that Tuttle Creek Reservoir and the dam is completely safe. They also indicate that at least approximately 17% of their storage capacity is still available. The plan is, however, as Tuttle Creek continues to rise, the Corps will, at some point in time, be forced to release water to try to correlate with the rate of inflow into the lake. In the event of continued rains and heavy storms in the upper part of the drainage basin, that rate could at times be high. For that reason, we have taken the preliminary precautionary steps that we think are necessary to protect those lower lying areas in the community that are vulnerable to that kind of a situation. Among those actions is to strategically place sand and construction material to sandbag if necessary in various locations in at least one neighborhood in the community, that being primarily the Dix Addition and surrounding area. We are notifying people in a door-to-door effort. This is not by any stretch of the imagination an evacuation or even a contemplation of evacuating. It is merely to notify people that we are taking some precautionary steps, and so they know what's going on, that the sand pile is there in case we need it. The danger to Manhattan is not rushing water, if you will, from the release. It is backwater that will back up, the level of which is entirely contingent upon the level of the Kansas River, as I understand it.
In order to control flooding further downstream along the Missouri and Mississippi rivers, the Corps of Engineers decided to restrict the outflow of water from Tuttle Creek Reservoir, causing Tuttle Creek to rise to record levels. How long the Corps could maintain a restricted outflow policy would depend upon rains in the Blue River drainage area. The last thing residents of Manhattan needed was more rain, but torrential rains again drenched the area.
With all of the activity yesterday evening, I would like to take an opportunity, if I can, to certainly thank the city crews that worked all night. In the past 13 hours, we received varying reports of 3 to 6 inches of rain, much of it coming in the first 4 hours. This rain resulted in a heavy surface runoff and flooding in low-lying areas throughout the city. City crews have been on duty since the storm began, with much of their efforts concentrated on sandbagging operations to protect the residential and commercial properties in the vicinity of Casement Road and the Walmart frontage road. Standing water in the vicinity of Walmart yet this morning constitutes a driving hazard. We strongly advise residents to stay away from that area until the water levels can be reduced. Quite possibly that will take all day. Last Friday, we reported to you our concern for the potential flooding for the area east of Casement Road, south of Allen Road or Knox Lane. That's the Dix Addition primarily, I believe. With current rain and the expected flows into Tuttle Creek Reservoir, we want to communicate our increasing alarm regarding the possibility of flooding in that area. We advise all residents in proximity to that neighborhood to remain alert to the changing conditions that may make it necessary to evacuate the area. With the current lake elevation at approximately 1133 feet and the river levels 3 feet over flood stage, it seems likely that releases from the lake may result in backwater from the river that will impact that area. Fire services and public works personnel will continue to monitor the conditions in cooperation with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers in order to keep the potential flood hazard areas informed. That's the end of the prepared statement I have. Wilton, do you have some things you'd like to add to that?
Well, I would simply, Roger, reinforce what you've said. Our problems at the present time are basically from local intense rainfall that couldn't get away rapidly enough, and so we've had serious problems, or relatively serious problems with that. At the present time, our problems have not been from above the dams. I guess the admonition that I would want to leave with the public is don't panic at the present time, but follow the old Boy Scout motto and be prepared. Let's don't have people get caught with unexpected high water, because the potential for considerably higher water than we've had does exist. With what we know about heavy rainfall upstream on both the above Milford and above Tuttle Creek, and if and when they have to release large quantities there, why, we'll be facing a somewhat different deal a day or two or three down the road.
Localized flooding occurred along McDowell Creek Road. Also in the Hunters Island area on South Manhattan Avenue. This effectively cut access to those areas. Although the River Pond area was showing no significant changes, water levels continued their relentless rise at Tuttle Creek Reservoir. Access to the Big Dog Marina parking area was completely underwater, and many trees which formerly stood on dry ground were now completely submerged. Here are the steps leading down to the boat ramp parking area. And everywhere you looked, rising water was apparent at Tuttle Creek. Here's one sign that visitors were probably going to pay attention to. Like many others, this sign was almost drenched by the rising waters. Although it may have looked peaceful on the surface, Tuttle Creek Reservoir was rapidly filling up. The Rocks, a popular recreation area for the college crowd, had disappeared. Where only a few weeks before sunbathers were enjoying the sunshine and slightly drier conditions, this area was now drenched with water. Water levels were up to the parking area, and the tall trees at the base of the rocks had only their topmost branches visible. Rising water levels completely cut off Tuttle Cove residents from their homes. This threw a curve to local residents. They had to find a less conventional means of getting to and from their homes. Canoes and powerboats became a familiar scene as Tuttle Cove Road became a part of Tuttle Creek Lake.
Most of our efforts in terms of sandbagging is to make available to the public sandbags and place sand in strategic locations where they can take care of it themselves. For those interested in sandbags, they're currently stored at the headquarters fire station at Denison and Kimball. We are doing some traffic control in the area of Casement and Dix, probably that area we've previously described as south of Allen Road, Knox Lane. We're talking about shutting off all traffic except to those that are residents of the area or have legitimate emergency reasons to be there. Yesterday we had a great deal of difficulty in getting emergency vehicles into the area just because of the sightseers and the amount of volunteers that were seeking entry into the area.
What we'll be doing, though, to make sure that we keep the volunteers, the people who want to volunteer and help those folks in sandbagging operations, make sure they have access to that area at the headquarters fire station at Denison and Kimball Avenues. On the north side of the building, there's the large training tower. The concrete area around that tower we'll begin using as a parking lot. We're asking that anyone who wants to volunteer, please come to that area and park their vehicles.
If shelter is required, they need to go to the ballroom area of the Kansas State University Union. I want to recognize the university administration for their cooperative effort in helping us put this plan together. We'd also like to recognize USD 383. They have extended an offer which we have taken them up on of providing bus transportation for evacuees or for any other purpose that city government finds necessary. I believe those buses were used yesterday in the evacuation attempts of the Hunters Island area.
Tuttle Creek Reservoir is, their outflow is at or around 20,000 cubic feet per second. They did open up 18 of the floodgates, which in turn, as they come up, it opens the bottom, so it will increase the capacity of the lake. We are receiving minor flooding or water approaching some roadways in the Zendale area and Fairmont. Caw Road, for example, in Zendale, the water is up along it. And in Fairmont, there is one house that the water has come up around. That's basically all the flooding we have to report at this time.
Some people met their neighbors for the first time, and many new friendships were created as people worked side by side to combat the rising floodwaters in residential areas.
We do have additional flooding occurring in the Fairmont area, Hunters Island, and Zendale near Caw Road. At this time, the flooding is minimal at most in Ogden, and most of the waters have receded. We are receiving reports in the North County now of temporary road closings due to high water in the Fancy Creek area, and that's basically caused by some local rains that have fallen this morning. Tuttle Creek Reservoir is 1136.41, and at this time are opening up to 20,000. So opening up an additional 5,000 to 25,000 cubic feet per second. And sometime tomorrow, plan on raising that 5,000 more to 30,000.
That is going to have some additional effects on the Dix Addition. There's no staff here at this very moment because this announcement we just learned of very, very, very short time ago. They've huddled to evaluate the elevation data and some of the things that they've been tracking to make a decision about all of the people in the Dix Addition. As you well know, and to those of you that haven't seen it, there's a supply of the evacuation advisories that was given to those folks door to door this morning at about 11 o'clock. It stated then that the problem was access. The problem at this point in time is still going to be access for a good part of the Dix Addition. Staff is huddling and in the very near future will determine what the proper course of action is going to be as far as removing volunteers and taking evacuation action in the Dix Addition.
Volunteers formed sandbag lines in the Dix Addition in automated fashion, and residents struggled valiantly to combat the ever-rising floodwaters from striking their homes. While Tuttle Creek Reservoir continued releasing water at the rate of 20,000 cubic feet per second. volunteers reported to the main fire station and were bused to the area in large numbers by buses provided by the USD 383 school district. The Red Cross provided first aid and refreshments to all working in the area. Dix Addition residents and volunteers built sandbag dikes around their homes to keep out rising floodwaters. Others were busy filling sandbags at the USD 383 maintenance facility on Hayes Drive. Waters continue to rise near the Casement Road and Beck intersection, closing off a major access road to the Dix area. Residents began their evacuation. City crews and fire department personnel went door to door advising residents to evacuate the area. And they left the area in a variety of transportation modes. Meanwhile, in the McDowell Creek Road area, the Kansas River inundated A1 Auto Parts. While the Kansas and Blue Rivers were beginning to leave their banks, more and more areas were starting to feel the effects of rising floodwaters. Especially vulnerable to flooding was the Dix Addition, located just to the north of the city levee system. By this time, National Guard troops were on duty guarding various parts of the city.
As of this morning, we had I guess a little confusion in our ordering of sandbags, so we do have approximately 600,000 sandbags in the community. We're well stocked, and as of this morning, had used 385,000. At this time, Tuttle Creek is still at 25,000 cubic feet per second out of the combination of the outlet tubes and the spillway. Milford is at 5,000 out of the outlet tubes and approximately 1,000 out of the spillway, so they're running about 6,000. The inflow into Tuttle Creek at this time is 43,800. The inflow into Milford is 35,400. And we do have reports of rainfall in different parts of the state, mainly far west of 8 to 9 inches out around Hayes. And we don't expect that to reach this area for 2 to 3 days. I guess what I could say right now is, as far as what we're doing at this time, is watching what's happening with the rain, where the rainfalls are. We've got Corps of Engineers personnel on site that are assisting with us with flows and calculations to see where this is going to go. They're keeping us updated on what releases we might have out of the reservoirs and updates on the repairs to Milford Reservoir. We do expect the flooding to happen again once the repairs are made in the Milford Reservoir to minor flooding in Ogden and Hunters Island. The last projections we had were that they would try to increase their outflow up to 15,000.
Manhattan has indeed proven it is a community that truly cares. We are working at the best of our ability to coordinate volunteer efforts. Because of the kind of town this is, at times we have a spot for 20 volunteers, and to date we've been able to arrange 2,000 in about 20 seconds. It's phenomenal. In relationship to the Dix Addition, and I guess the city as a whole, we are coordinating volunteers from the Manhattan Fire Station. The places where we have them work, there's not room to park the cars because of the truck traffic and those kinds of things, so we are busing them in buses graciously donated by USD 383 for our use.
Maintenance crews constantly monitor the levee system, causing them to be put off limits to the public. One of the first areas of the city to be evacuated was the Hunters Island area, which soon resembled a lake. For a limited time, farmers were allowed into the Hunters Island area to take care of livestock. The Riley County Transfer Station, located in the Hunters Island area, was completely flooded, which necessitated moving it to an alternate location.
I guess just to start off, I'd do some rumor control. Back on the far east coast, we had a report that back there that we had been quoted on saying that the dam had broke. And I want you to know that that's not true. We said, give us a damn break. We'd like to have the rain stop.
On Thursday, July 22nd, officials of the Corps of Engineers said that the amount of water already being contained by the dam meant that they could no longer hold back more than what was being taken into the reservoir system. Corps officials kept the outflow at 5,000 cubic feet per second at the tubes, while increasing the spillway outflow to 35,000 CFS in an effort to balance outflow with the inflow. The 40,000 cubic feet per second outflow set an all-time record for the Tuttle Creek Reservoir.
We did get a press release from the Corps about Milford Reservoir, and we expect them once the repairs are completed, which sounds like it could be today yet, they would gradually go to 15,000 cubic feet per second, or a total of 22,500. They do have currently about 7,000 cubic feet per second coming over the spillway, between 7 and 8. And as that increases, and they do expect it to increase, they will decrease the flow out of their outlet area. Okay? What they want is a total of 22,500 only. And that's basically what it says here at the bottom. The Milford Lake will not exceed 22,500 cubic feet per second. We do have water up in a lot of residences in the county now. We do have water up down as far as South Collins or Collins Lane on Hunter's Island. So most of the residences north of Collins Lane have water in them or around them. Access to the Hunter's Island area has been cut off totally now, other than boat. There is an area out around Zeendale. The water's almost up to Zeendale Road. We do have on the island yet a total of 4 cows and 9 hogs that are running loose on the island, and four residents that refuse to leave. They're still out there. We did have quite a intensive sandbagging excursion in the Fairmont area this afternoon, and there were we're kind of getting stretched out between all the counties, and we got the Red Cross doing a lot of the canteen work, running all over. So we stretched them pretty thin, so we're now utilizing the National Guard medics, and they're hauling water to and from that Fairmont sandbagging activity.
As reported by the Manhattan Mercury, dozens of homes in the Dix and Knoxbury Additions and Countryside Mobile Home Parks were inundated this morning when the Blue River overflowed its banks and began flowing south, drenching all in its path. And residents of those neighborhoods appeared to be getting no relief as they waited for the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers at Tuttle Creek to further increase the outflow there to 60,000 cubic feet per second, which would be yet another record. City officials said flooding in the area is reaching the 500-year level. Sandbag levees that appeared to be holding Thursday evening in the Dix Addition yielded to floodwaters that surged around over and through sandbags. Much of the 4-foot-high levee that crossed Casement Road in the subdivision was not even visible this morning. Exhausted residents, some weeping, waded through waist-high water to retrieve valuables from their homes. The city ordered an emergency evacuation Thursday night of the 668 addresses in the subdivision, plus adjacent mobile home parks. The southern part of the Countryside Mobile Home Park was one of the areas hardest hit on this state by rising floodwaters. While a few homes on the north side of the park escaped being flooded, their owners had already taken necessary precautions sandbagging their mobile homes. The Kansas River stage was at 27.1 feet, a rise of 2.8 feet from the preceding day. This was 10.9 feet over the normal level. Residents of the Manhattan area had become familiar with these two flood indicators on the Kansas River. The city levee system was busy protecting the downtown area from certain flooding, a levee that did not exist when the 1951 flood encompassed the downtown area. The Fairmont Addition, a low-lying development located just east of the Kansas River, was especially susceptible to the rising waters. Streets in the eastern part of the area were soon covered by floodwaters. This made it necessary for utility crews to cut off gas and electricity to the residents. Rising floodwaters cut off access to the McDowell Creek area, forcing residents to detour many miles in order to reach their homes. While protected by the levee, some businesses still took precautions. Sandbagging operations escalated at two remote filling sites established by the city of Manhattan. One site being the county shops on Anderson Avenue, and the other shown here was on Hayes Drive. The Corps of Engineers delivered in excess of 1 million sandbags to the Manhattan area to aid in flood control efforts. Volunteers did their best to make sure the city had plenty of filled sandbags to be transported where they were needed. Some ingenious methods of quickly filling sandbags were soon devised. The Northcrest Mobile Home Park was one of the early casualties of the flood. As you can see by these aerial views, more and more of the area was being covered by floodwaters. Seen here is the Highway 24 bridge across the Kansas River as we look down into the Fairmont Addition. And this is the convergence of the Kansas and Blue Rivers. This is a picture of the Dix Addition as we fly westbound along the levee. And then we circle around the area. Clearly seen in the center of the picture is the new channel of the Blue River, which took its old course through the center of the housing area. high water mark was reached on the weekend of July 24th and 25th when the Kansas River reached 29.10 feet, almost 13 feet above normal. On July 24th, the orange bike, a readily identifiable flood gauge on the Kansas River, was barely 1 foot above the raging water. Rising floodwater and debris quickly pushed aside anything in its path. The bike, once high and dry some 14 feet above the water, was now covered. And the other bike escaped by the narrowest of margins. The spillway outflow hit a record 60,000 cubic feet per second. As a point of reference, 60,000 cubic feet per second equals a wall of water 100 feet long, 100 feet high, 6 feet thick, leaving the lake every second. The increased traffic flow across the dam made it necessary to close the spillway parking areas. The Spillway Park, once enjoyed by swimmers, campers, and picnickers, was now part of the lake. State officials worked quickly over the weekend to have Riley County declared a federal disaster area. This process would make additional federal assistance available to victims of the flood. One of the areas to benefit from federal funds would be residents in the Hunters Island area who by now could only reach their homes by boat. The rising levels of Tuttle Creek Reservoir affected not only the Manhattan area, but portions of the county north of the lake as well. The county was forced to close the Barnes and Casement Road Bridge as the 60,000 cubic feet per second outflow from Tuttle Creek Spillway down the Blue River came dangerously close to flooding the bridge. The mobile homes in the Fairmont Addition near Messenger Road did not escape the flooding, and residents who tried to get into the area there were forced to retreat from the rising floodwaters. Meanwhile, water continued to rise in the Countryside Mobile Home Park, flooding homes that days before were high and dry. History repeated itself as the Blue River took its old 1903 course, which ran through the center of what is now the Dix Addition. The Red Cross was again available to provide disaster relief assistance. Some displaced families found shelter at the K-State Union assisted by Red Cross volunteers. Others had found shelter in higher elevations in town with family or friends. The total number of people registering with the Red Cross as of this date was over 1,500. Officials estimating local flood damage at this time at $15 million. That figure would later climb. The estimate included damage to 287 mobile homes in Manhattan, Ogden, and rural areas, 98 homes, and 6 commercial properties. Mobile homes along the Knox Lane area were affected by the flooding. Another troublesome area was the Knoxbury and Spain intersection. A private levee that had sprung a leak in the Pecan Circle area was a major problem area on Sunday. About 10 businesses on the street off Rosencutter Road near Hunters Island were affected. And about 1,500 volunteers were bused to the area to help sandbag and throw dirt on the levee. That levee constructed to help keep floodwaters from the Kansas River and Wildcat Creek away. Rising waters affected the Mulman Bottoms area, encompassing mobile homes in that region, as well as a pickup truck. Several roads in the area were barely passable. Despite what the sign says, the transfer station was not open for business. Some residents who decided not to evacuate found ways to cope with flooded roads. And the Union Pacific Railroad tracks south of Manhattan were barely visible above the floodwaters, and in some cases they were submerged. Tuttle Creek Lake had reached an all-time high of nearly 1,138 feet above sea level. And even the road leading to the rocks was submerged. Here's a scene on Tuttle Creek Road, north of Barnes, looking back toward Casement Road. On July 25th, water was just inches away from the bottom of the Highway 24 bridge east of Manhattan and a nearby railroad bridge.
we've just taken off from the Manhattan Airport and we're flying down the Kansas River again. Just looking at some structures here along the way. That's the Little Apple Raceway, if you recognize it. And now I'm zooming in on the Stag Hill area. Stag Hill Golf Course, I should say. We're going to be coming again around the end of Stag Hill into the Ashland area. Okay, this is at the very end of Temple Lane where Wildcat Creek connects with the Kansas River. This is some of the agricultural operations out in that area. This is again some of the structures out on Hunter's Island. Looking towards the south, basically at this point, along South Collins Lane and South Manhattan Avenue. I believe that is Larson Construction there. This is part of Northcrest Mobile Home Park, the bigger park. And as you can see, a number of homes do have water underneath them. This is one of Brown's Mobile Homes Parks at the end of Privates Lane, or Privates Road. And that's more on Privates Road there. This is Schilling Asphalt along McDowell Creek Road, A1 Auto Salvage, and we're coming up on the Fairmont area. I've got today some more footage of the Zendale area going out to Zendale Road here. You recognize the tree farm nursery over there. And some of the houses and farms along Zendale Road. Here's a broader view of in the Zendale area. You see K-18 East or Zendale Road on the right side of the screen. I happened to be over the Hayes Drive site and took some pictures of the sandbag pile out there. Very impressive effort. Here you can see the blue coming out of the banks and flowing through the Countryside Mobile Home Park in the Knoxbury area. Now we're looking back at the Knoxbury and Countryside Mobile Home Park area, Parker Drive. That's right in the middle of the Countryside Mobile Home Park, flowing down through there. Now we're looking at the Dix area at the corner of Casement and Dix. You see a good shot of Powerline Drive running down through that area. And there's the very start of Knox Lane going out into that farming area. This is actually in the Potawatomi County on the other side of the Casement Bridge. It's called Rocky Ford Trailer Court. And now looking at River Pond area. We happen to fly back over Manhattan, and I just took a shot of our transfer operation out on Anderson Avenue. This is some pictures of the Ogden area again. This is some footage of Junction City. As you can see, they have some significant problems there as well. Coming up on the Milford Spillway again. That is the normal outlet tubes there, and this is the emergency spillway. And as you can see, it's continuing to come down there and erode that area significantly. That is the normal outlet tubes there, and this is the emergency spillway.
Let me give you the good news first. The Kaw River, or the Kansas River at Manhattan, was showing a stage of 28.56, which was down. Tuttle Creek Reservoir had an elevation of 1135.42, which was down. Milford Reservoir showed an elevation of 1181.05, which was down. And Fort Riley, the gauge at Fort Riley at the Kansas River was 32.05, which was down. We are beginning the damage assessment stage now with waters receding. We would like to keep people aware that these areas, although the water has receded, we don't feel like we're in the clear yet. The Tuttle Creek Reservoir had 60,000 release and about 55,000 inflow. We are concerned with the sewage and pesticides and other materials that have been released into the lake via the flooded areas. And at this time, with the request from the Corps of Engineers that we close the lakes off, we are going to close the lakes to any recreational activities. We are doing the same with the main Kansas River. People will still be allowed to move around and get their valuables out of these areas as long as they can show proper identification. We do have a flying restriction still placed on the areas over the reservoirs.
Our highest level concentration of our effort today is continued patrol of the levee system, and particularly the toe of the levee. As we explained yesterday, we're watching for ground seepage. Again, the water table's involved, monitoring that area to make sure there are no sand boils developing, and if they are, then we can address them right away.
We will have two FEMA representatives come down and visit us. They'll be assigned to our Emergency Operations Center to answer any questions we have starting into the recovery phase of this disaster. The Red Cross, along with Pawnee Mental Health, are putting out, or will be getting us some flood booklets on what people should do upon returning to their home that's been affected by the flood. We should have those in a large quantity sometime tomorrow or the next day. An estimate that the appraiser's office gave us. Right now, their estimate, and I want to reiterate estimate, is that out of the 348 permanent homes that are affected, approximately 95% of those have major damage, and their estimate is $14,074,773. They also see that there's 539 mobile homes that have been affected, and most of those, probably their estimate's 99 to 100% of those have damage, major damage. And their estimate on that is $2,505,575. And their best estimate for the people evacuated was 2,775 people. And that's in Manhattan, Ogden, and Riley County, in the rural areas. This didn't include any land, any outbuildings, any vehicles. So, like I say, this is just kind of a preliminary estimate.